Good evening. Not so much fade on that video then as there should have been at the end. All of a sudden I was just on the screen, so apologies for that. Good evening and welcome to the second episode of Series 3 of the CISO Experience, streaming live here on the InfoSec Live channel. For those joining us for the first time, the CISO Experience is about real conversations with real security leaders, exploring not just the technology, but the people, the pressures and the opportunities shaping our industry today. Quick thank you to our sponsor, Simple Security, for supporting the show. You may know that I'm also a co-founder of that, so cheating a little bit. But at Simple Security, we believe cybersecurity doesn't have to be complicated, and we work with partners to make enterprise-grade security accessible, affordable, and effective for businesses of all sizes. Which brings me nicely on to today's conversation, because our guest today, Adam Pilton, works for an organization that has a very, very similar belief, and they also their aim is to make that impact in the industry, and they certainly are at the moment. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Adam is a dynamic cybersecurity professional who began his career in 2016 and has since built a fascinating perspective on the industry, excuse me, from investigating cybercrime and helping to bring offenders to justice, to advising organizations on frameworks like NIST CSF. He's had a career that blends the technical with the practical. And what stands out about Adam for me is his ability to translate complex risks into messages business leaders can actually act on, whether that's in boardrooms, training sessions, or with end users. So without further ado, let's bring Adam on. Hey, Adam.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. I haven't got the screen right, though. Let me just change this around so you are in the hot seat here. There we go. And let me get rid of this on here. Sorry, seamless experience today. Like clicking buttons. And there we go. So look, Adam, thank you so much. Yeah, you're in the chair. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and have a chat today. I want to find out a little bit about your journey first. You started out in cybercrime investigation before moving into advisory roles. What did that early experience teach you about the human impact of cyber threats? And whilst we're talking about that, can you tell me a little bit about your early experience and what's brought you to where you are today as well?
Yeah, definitely. So started out, as you say, I was a police officer. I was a police officer for 15 years. And latterly, I led the covert operations management unit. And that ultimately is three distinct teams. The Covert Authorities Bureau, these guys are responsible for obtaining lawful authorities in relation to covert activity, whether that be real world, so following people or entering a building, or in the virtual world, following people online or entering a account, hacking essentially. The communications data investigators, and these guys and girls are responsible for obtaining communications data from the likes of Google, Facebook, Apple, but then more locally as well from telephone providers, internet service providers. And then, as you're expecting, the cybercrime team, the other team, for conducting cybercrime investigations, but also bringing that digital aspect to traditional investigations, whether it be harassment to murder. But I was lucky enough to start before I led that team. I was actually part of the cybercrime team, and then before that, I was on CID, where essentially is where I got trained up into cyber and the digital techniques, etc. So I was very lucky to sit on that team and have lots of varying experiences before I then led the whole team. I think in answer to your question, the biggest thing to take away for me was that unique angle that I've got in terms of I've dealt with victims, whether that be individuals or businesses, seen the impact upon those people. Yeah. Sometimes it might be something simple like losing a Facebook account. On the surface, it doesn't really seem like a big deal. But then if that's got photos of loved ones that are no longer with you and you lose that, and you're not getting that account back, that's awful. That's terrible. Massive impact. And on the flip side, then you've got businesses that sometimes it's serious money, serious consequences, but it could just be, and it generally was, there's the cybercrime that we saw was that low level, just constant, smaller volumes of money, less than £10,000, enough to hurt small businesses, but not enough to close them down. So yeah, it's a significant impact.
And then you sometimes see the threat actors then coming back for more repeatedly. We've seen the very same thing recently with some clients that we've been working with. You know, they'll have one chunk of money and it won't be too much. So the company keeps ticking over. Then 6 months later, they come back and ask for more. And what do you do at that point? That's the thing, isn't it?
Exactly that. And it's just like the scams that we all hear about, isn't it? Then what they call the suckers list. If you've paid once, or if you've been a victim once, and you're likely to be a victim again, purely because the door's open or the windows aren't secure as maybe they should be. So unfortunately, that is the way it seems to work. And like we spoke about before, lots of people move into putting cybersecurity controls in place after they've been a victim, because then they realize the impact. And I will just highlight as well, it's not just the victims, it's the whole, and we saw this from the British Library attack. They were very public about it afterwards and sharing their findings. It's the security teams, and there's something we're hearing a little bit more about nowadays in terms of the impact upon security teams, because when these incidents happen, they don't happen Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, just like policing. It happens when it happens, and you work the hours you've got to get it done. And again, there's no break between those hours. You just keep going. So it's a huge impact to so many people. I
love that. I've got to ask you, so how long were you in the force for? Can you call it the force now, or are we not allowed to do that? I'm not sure how that
goes. You're probably not, but let's go with it.
Okay. Okay. How long were you in the police service for?
15 years. 15 years.
And the question's got to be, because it sounds like you had some quite exciting roles in there. And I'm asking this because I know several other people who've retired from the police service and come into cyber. Why did you leave?
Do you know what? It's one of those things I realized. So the career I'd have had to do before I could retire would be a 40-year career. I'd done 15 years, so I hadn't even got to the halfway point. But I already knew I was going to have the best job that I'd already had. The job that I had was the coolest job going. It was brilliant. And I got to a point where it was a case of, can I expand the team I'm in anymore? And ultimately, as much as I tried and wanted to, as a police service, and the money wasn't there to expand the team in the digital aspect. The other option was promotion. And if I got promoted, because of the way the police service, police force works, it was a case of having to leave the cybercrime team in that unit and then go front line. And I thought, well, I've spent so much time learning so much about cybersecurity.
It
would
have been a waste. It would have been a waste, wouldn't it? I think you've done, from my opinion, you've done the right thing.
Definitely.
I was going to go on to talk about the journey from technical to business, but I want to stick on something you've said, because you mentioned, we were talking earlier, and we were talking about the companies who are kind of motivated at the moment to do something about security tends to be the ones who've either had a scare or that they've been hit recently. Even though all we read in the press every week at the moment, I mean, you've got Jaguar Land Rover, you said British Library, you've got Marks and Spencers, you've got Co-op, and we've seen the devastating impact that this has had. So not just those organizations, but the supply chains around them, the end customers who can't get their cars repaired, for example, with Jaguar Land Rover. When I went to Co-op to get baked beans, and they told me they weren't going to have any in for 3 weeks because of supply chain issues. Small problem, but I love my beans.
Didn't read that in the news.
No, you didn't. It's disgraceful. But my question is, you mentioned that I think you've written a blog about this and you're going to release it soon. What more motivation do people need to actually do something about cybersecurity?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So my blog, which will be coming out soon, is exactly that. So I believe that cybersecurity has a motivation problem. I think most people understand, they recognize that cybersecurity is a threat. Like you say, it's on mainstream media now. You don't have to go to specialist or niche websites to read about it. It's on mainstream news. It's constant. We saw the National Cybersecurity Centre annual review come out last week, I think it was. And again, it's essentially more of the same, isn't it? The threat is here. The threat is getting bigger. It's only going to carry on getting bigger. You need to act. And people recognize that. I believe that people recognize that. People know it. Certainly the people that I speak to outside of cyber, the businesses that I speak to, small businesses. No, I need to do that. And it goes on the to-do list. They don't have the motivation to take that any further, because I think in part, they don't really understand what to do. Cybersecurity is massive, and it can be overcomplicated.
I think it feels too daunting for a lot of companies to know actually where to start, because you've got, I might get shot for saying that. No, I'm not going to say it. Should I say it? I'll say it. So you've got, like in the UK, that internal dialogue externalized there. In the UK, you've got cyber clusters all over the place. I don't know how effective they've been, because I think their whole ethos or their remit was to engage. I know someone, Darren, I'll name drop him, who works very closely with Cyber East, which is the local one to me. I feel like they could be doing more. I think is my point. Not that I'm saying it should be down to the government and law enforcement and other people to actually do this, but I do think we need some help on it, because as an industry, we're not really doing very well. We've spread fear and uncertainty and doubt for a long time, which I come from in the insurance industry back in the day, and to sell insurance, you have to use fear, uncertainty and doubt. So I'm kind of used to it, but I think people have had enough of it. You can keep throwing these things at people, but it's not working, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I guess so, two answers to your question. So the first thing, in terms of the law enforcement angle doing more, I think you're right. However, I would say you get people like me who they train up and they invest time and money in, and then I leave. So that doesn't help the situation. But
if they'd have gave you better options to pursue your career in the avenue that you actually had an interest in, yeah, I can say this, you can't, you don't need to agree, then maybe you wouldn't have left.
Maybe.
Yeah.
There we go. Next question, please. Well, no, that's the point, isn't it? And I think you're right. I think there is more that everyone could be doing, and what we're hearing certainly from the government. Obviously, they sent a letter out. The UK government, sent a letter out to the top businesses in the UK, essentially saying you need to switch on, you need to act. And the whole annual review that the National Cybersecurity Centre have just put out was it's time to act, and accountability is going to be massive. In Europe, we see NIST 2, and that really pushes accountability. And in the UK, when it comes out, the Cyber Resilience Bill, that's going to be about accountability too.
And I think excuses have gone far enough. I mean, from a data loss prevention point of view, it used to be, well, it was accidental. I think moving forward, accidental is not going to wash with it.
No.
I think we need to be a little bit clever about it than that. Just sort of going off on a bit of a tangent, you left the police service. Who are you working for now, and why did you join them?
Certainly, yeah. So Heimdal Security is who I work for now, and I was in the fortunate position of being able to have a look and see who's out there, who's offering the. There we go. On the check out the QR code. I like it.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to turn the brightness up on my camera, because I've just noticed how dull I am.
Yeah. So ultimately, I was in the position to be able to have a look to see what organisations were out there and were offering roles, and Heimdal fitted the bill of not only offering the type of job I wanted, but having a quality product that I was happy to stand next to. And I think that's a really important factor. So Heimdal, if you don't know, broadest tech stack in Europe, and our founder has built everything himself. So there's nothing white labeled. Everything he has built himself, and the team obviously he's got around him now. So every line of code he knows. So one thing I've been hugely impressed with when it comes to Heimdal, in the relatively short time I've been here, I think it's 6 months now, is that when they get feedback or requests for additional features, there's something that's spoken about behind the scenes, and then it's implemented. If it's going to be of value to multiple people, then it's implemented. And one of the things, as an example, so Cyber Essentials in the UK, obviously it's massive, it's getting bigger and bigger. We've seen again, this, I think it's increased 20% year over year, or roughly 20% year over year, the adoption rate. So, which is great. But what lots of organizations are saying is, not only do they want to pass Cyber Essentials on the day, but they want to recognize where they are at any given point in the year. So we now, Heimdal now offer a Cyber Essentials report. So all the tools that you use with Heimdal, you can get essentially a status update on those tools. So patching, for example, are your vulnerabilities addressed within 14 days, the critical and high? And you'll be able to see that in the report. And that is at the back of MSP saying that this is what we need.
Does that work for Cyber Essentials Plus as well then? Because I know there's 2 tiers of it, isn't there? There's like the base level and then the
with Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, ultimately they're the same standard. Cyber Essentials is self-assessment, and Cyber Essentials Plus is when a third-party auditor comes in and verifies you're not fibbing,
making it up. Yeah,
which
not that I've ever come across a company that would do that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you can make everyone pass the Cyber Essentials Plus, because it's just the truth.
Okay, that's interesting. Because simple, our core offering maps to NIST CSF, and I've just had to do some work the last couple of weeks with the people I've been speaking to in the UK to make sure that I can demonstrate how that maps to Cyber Essentials. So I've learned a little bit about it, but I definitely need to learn a little bit more. So how long have you been with Heimdal for now, Adam?
6 months. 6 months.
6 months. And your day-to-day job is?
So essentially, I run a webinar series. I should have brought some slides to plug it, really, shouldn't I?
I think I told you there was no sales pitches allowed, so it's probably my fault. So apologies.
Yeah. So ultimately, I run webinar series. I've got 2 webinars running. I've got something called Threat Watch Live, which is essentially a monthly review of the latest threats, news, legal, regulatory changes, and I bring a guest with me. So I had only this week actually, Glenn Wilkinson joined me. Next month, Patrick Burgess, and I've got lots of different people coming to speak on it. So that's an engaging way to essentially make sure people stay informed about what's going on, and it's open to anybody and everybody.
Love that.
And the other one's the Heimdal Labs deep dive, which is more of a case of looking at the products within Heimdal and showing how they can help support and any new features, any new products, that kind of thing. As well as I do lots of other bits.
We need to have, I think.
So yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we're having a chat for them, don't we? Yeah, no,
yeah.
I think it makes complete sense for you. So I'll get that demo set up.
Let's continue that conversation after, and I'll take the Heimdal thing off the screen now. I see that 3 people have scanned that whilst I've had it up there, so we've got something out of that for you, Adam. And I hope you don't mind. I'm going to bring up your LinkedIn, so if anyone's watching this, they want to connect directly with Adam, please scan. The barcode's fine. You can scan it. QR code. Sorry, trust me, I'm a doctor. Back to the questions. I want to talk about cybercrime trends. Like we were saying earlier, massive increase it seems this year. Maybe it's just more awareness, I'm not sure. But from your perspective, what's changed most in the threat landscape in the last 10 years? And are organizations catching up? I think we kind of part answered that. Or are attackers still several steps ahead?
Yeah, so unfortunately, attackers are several steps ahead, probably more than several, to be fair. I think something we've seen particularly recently is the resurgence, the rise of social engineering. It's always been there, and if you look back, it's been around for forever, isn't it? However, we're seeing the likes of Scattered Spider, who are really coming to the fore now. They started mid 2022, relatively unknown, and then 23 they became a bit more known because they took down MGM, the casinos, and then moving forward, Marks and Spencer's, and now I would say most people will recognize Scattered Spider. Certainly most people will recognize the Marks and Spencer's attack. So social engineering, fooling or tricking people into doing something they normally wouldn't. And IT help desk are certainly under the spotlight. And I think as well, spinning off the social engineering, AI is helping more people embrace 100%. That. So phishing,
I mean, you look at ransomware as a service, how that's moved on in the last 2 or 3 years, and the sophistication now of the social engineering attacks. I mean, you look at something as classic as the old Nigerian prince that we used to get through, and still come through from time to time in my email. The difference now is it's very, very well written. The story's still crap, but the grammar's great, the layout's good, and I think Scattered Spider, touch on those guys and girls for a moment. So there's a lot of people out there saying it's just a bunch of teenagers out there proving themselves. Whilst I'd love to think we're back in 1983 and that is the case, I really do feel it's a combination of that and some nation states who are perhaps exploiting the fact that these teenagers want to be on their forums shouting about what they've done. But I don't know. The one thing I do know is that they've got English speaking people within the organization with English accents, because that's how they're getting through a lot of these call centers, from what I've heard from people who've worked inside the businesses who have been hit by them recently. Have you heard any more about the actual group itself, or can you give us any insights on that?
No, I would say in terms of Scattered Spider, I think that is the narrative that's put out, that it's generally Western based, generally males, younger males. And be fair, the arrests that we've seen made from that group, it does back that up. What I would say though is cybercrime is moving away from that, like the idea, like you said a while ago or years ago, it used to be a case of young people in their room just messing around. Massively, definitely still does happen, but cybercrime has now moved into the territory of other established crimes of having organized
it's organized crime. It's like a business.
Exactly that. And you look at drugs is a very good example. So you've got layers, haven't you? You've got tiers of people, and that's exactly what we're seeing in cybersecurity now. And you see from the leaks you've seen of Lockbit, Conti, where we've been able to read their chat logs and see what's going on. They operate like businesses. It's actually quite impressive in those logs.
It is. I mean, their call centers better than a lot of the companies' call centers who I've dealt with on a legal basis. I mean, they're very responsive and very quick to get back to the people they're holding to ransomware. I've seen some of the conversations. I mean, it's unbelievable, really. And you know, that might be being perpetrated by a group of teenagers, but that level of sophistication and organized crime comes from something much more embedded and deeper than that, I think.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. But yeah, they've got that understanding of how to run an organization, and Quillin's a really good example. So they came up with, I think it's probably the last 6 months, they came up with the call a lawyer button on their ransomware as a service platform. And essentially it was once you've hooked someone, once you've got a victim, you had this option to call
One
a lawyer.
of our recommended lawyers.
Yeah, exactly that. And these lawyers would then go through the data and say, this is what the data you've stolen is worth. So we'd recommend starting your ransom here, or potentially we've had a look through and we found some issues in terms of they've broke the law themselves. So this is leverage points for you to lean on. Or we could even take the negotiations for you. It's incredible, but that's how it's operating. And they're only going to get better. It's not going to go backwards. And AI is just going to enhance that.
Yeah, 100%. It's terrifying, really. It really is. Okay, security awareness and culture. Let's touch on that. You've led training initiatives aimed at making security part of people's daily behavior. What's been the most effective in getting real engagement, not just the 30-second tick box compliance videos that people don't watch and just let play in the background on their devices? Not mentioning KnowBe4 or any other names. So.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? When it comes to education awareness, people view it as the compliance piece, as in I've got to watch these videos, so I can start the video running now, go and make a cup of tea and come back, and then Google the questions and pass, and nobody really cares as long as the box is ticked. So I think that's a big problem, and I think we are starting to shift away from that. Businesses are now seeing.
But how do you make people care?
For me, it's culture. You have to. It starts with the whole as an organization, when you're looking at your organization and you've got your mission statements, your vision statements, you have to understand what you're about and what's the purpose. And then from that, you then start embedding the culture from there. So everyone's ultimately pulling in the same direction and understands that, I might not be interested or be very technical, but I understand the importance of having MFA, strong passwords, reporting phishing links, so that ultimately we can carry on operating each day. And the big cases we're seeing, JLR, like you've mentioned, shows exactly why it's so important. Because potentially if it goes wrong, and it goes very wrong, you might not have a job, let alone a company to come back to.
Maybe you're absolutely right. Maybe we need to make the training more relatable to people's personal lives than their business lives. I remember someone telling me a story not so long back about someone wanting an alarm for their house, but it depends on who you ask what sort of alarm you're going to get. Because if you ask a policeman, you're going to get a burglar alarm. If you ask a fireman, you're going to get a fire alarm. And there's a lot of bias there, isn't there, in the advice that's given and what people actually think. But for me, if you can relate it to people's, I mean, you said it earlier about the Facebook account, right? Look at the impact. I mean, for me, I'm not on Facebook. I don't care. But for, I don't know, my late mum, who passed away a couple of years ago, she kept in touch with all of her friends. She had thousands of photos on Facebook, and she'd have been devastated if anything happened to that. So it's making sure people can sort of relate between the two.
Definitely.
Okay. Frameworks and maturity. You've helped businesses use frameworks like NIST CSF, Cyber Essentials, you were mentioning earlier, to mature their security posture. For companies starting out, is a framework the best first step to avoid overwhelm, or what should people do? You said it earlier, we're struggling to get people to take action. What is it that small, medium businesses should do if they haven't thought about it, but they want to start somewhere?
Definitely. So personally, I think it is. And I think it's really important to recognize that you will never complete cybersecurity. You will never be able to go, cybersecurity's done, are we good? Because the threat's constantly evolving, and your environment's going to be constantly evolving, and as your people as well, they need that constant training, that constant input. So what I would say is 100% frameworks. I'm a big fan of Cyber Essentials here in the UK. I think it makes a massive difference, and it gives people something to go with, rather than going, okay, I need to get passwords, or I'm going to pay a load of money to a consultant, for example, or maybe even worse, ask ChatGPT what I should do. At least with a framework that that works, the stats are there to support it. Multiple businesses do it. There's value in it outside of just the security as well. And it will give you that framework to go on in terms of a longer journey. So it will help you get the basics in place and then help you build. And I know a stat from a few years ago, which I love quoting because it's so good, is that 60% of people that complete Cyber Essentials learn something new. And that wasn't just the first time they do it. It was every time they went on to do it. And for me, That's exactly
good.
what it's about. If you learn something new, then you're developing your knowledge, and obviously the business is going to become secure at the back of it.
So for those that don't know, then we were talking earlier about there being like the self-assessment and then the audit
Yeah.
version, which is probably the more comprehensive and one that's going to make the most impact.
Mm.
If you're I don't know, let me give a reasonable example. I don't know, if you've got a hotel with 60 staff in it, you think, okay, I need to get something done. We've obviously got people's payment information, we hold loads of other information, but we don't do anything about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
If the MD or the owner of that hotel, is it them who've got to go through that process? Do they need hand holding? Should they seek an advisor for support? Or is this something that people can go through on their own?
Yeah. So if they want to go through it by themselves, that's what Cyber Essentials is geared up to be all about.
That's
so
what it's designed for, right?
Exactly that. Anybody can go through Cyber Essentials. The people that probably have the most efficient experience with it will seek someone that knows what they're doing to guide them through it for sure. But yeah, it's designed so that anybody can do it. So yeah, that hotel example you gave, anyone within the organization can sit down, as long as it's signed off by someone at the top of the organization to say that everything is true, then yeah. And that feeds into the whole accountability point as well we mentioned earlier.
Does, although I do feel that a lot of organisations would give it to the youngest employee they've got who knows computers. That's the only thing that worries me. I've seen that happen with others.
Probably the reality for some organisations.
Yeah. Okay. We're nearly out of time, so it's worked quite well actually, because the last question is the one I'm most excited about hearing the answer for. Really, what excites you most about where cybersecurity is heading? We've talked about AI, we've talked about the threat groups. Are there any opportunities you think we're not talking about enough? What's exciting? What's happening? What's coming?
Definitely. So from my perspective, I think the whole awareness piece is just starting to come to people's mind. People are just becoming more aware to cybersecurity. So it's in the mainstream media, and what I do is I tell stories about cybersecurity, whether it's my own investigations, whether it's looking at, for example, the British Library hack, I mentioned that earlier, or even current stuff in the news. So I think people are becoming more aware of it and switched onto and happy to engage with it. So yeah, for me, I think people are going to have a greater awareness of it. Younger generations coming through that have grown up with this tech. So that's the positives. That's the exciting. I think we are going to start being able to build cultures right without that resistance we've got. And I think AI is going to be a significant impact in helping us, but it'll equally create problems as well.
Do you think? Thank you for that. As a father of many children, I know you're a father too. As far as I'm aware, in the UK, there's no template for the education that schools need to give to children and parents at a primary level, as far as I'm aware. And each school tends to do something or nothing depending upon who they've got working at the school. Does that need to change? Am I right in saying that, for one, because I'm not sure that is true? And two, do we need to do more about that? Because for me, I look at my youngest have got 7-year-old twins. They don't really go on devices. We do let them watch kids YouTube from time to time. But my 7-year-old son loves computers, so I want to get him onto Scratch to start him learning how to code. And my 9-year-old daughter likes to watch things about horses. Keeping kids safe online is a nightmare. And then I've got like a 17-year-old teenage son who I've spent the last 4 years telling him to turn his bloody Xbox off at 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, how can we educate our children better is the question I want to ask you.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because everyone's got such strong views on where they stand. I think is looking at it from the parent aspect to start with, I think it's a difficult one in terms of devices, because like you say, you want, and I think children should have access to these devices because they need to learn. And if we make a comparison with your kids going down the park, certain age, they start walking to school by themselves, they start going to the parks by themselves. Huge risks out there in society. You don't know what they're doing, that you don't even know where they are potentially if you're not using phones to track them. But that's the beauty of tech, isn't it? Nowadays, like when I went out, my parents knew I was back at a certain time and that was it. Whereas now we've got apps that can reassure us.
You know where they are all the time.
Exactly. So we got apps that can help us with that. And I think as well, allowing children to explore and know the boundaries. And one thing I say to my kids is just don't post pictures online.
I mean, my business partner Steve is one of his friend's sons, unfortunately got scammed that way with posting a particularly intimate picture of himself when he was about 14, 15, and the psychological impact it had on him and his family. And you hear of children killing themselves over it, but everyone's so free to put pictures of themselves on. I mean, for adults as well, I'm talking about now, not just children. I think, and there's a lot of people, and people are going to hate me for this, but in our industry who constantly post pictures of their kids on LinkedIn. And for me, I want my children to have the choice when they get older, whether they want to be all over the internet or not. I don't want them to turn around like my now 26-year-old did when he was 13 and found out Father Christmas wasn't real. Sorry if that spoiled it for anyone. I remember walking around Sainsbury's with him looking at me going, "I hate you, Dad. You've been lying to me for years." You know, it's trying to find that balance, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. And I think like with the pictures thing as well, like with AI now, and the fact those pictures can be taken and put into any kind of content is scary. I was really against social media. Obviously, being in the police and the work I was doing, I wasn't on social media at all. And then since coming across and getting a LinkedIn account, I've gone the other way. Like you can find plenty of pictures of my face on LinkedIn.
I mean, I'm all over LinkedIn. I think you have to be if you're doing work like you are and work like I am. I mean, again, I'd never really been on LinkedIn until 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. Before that, no Facebook, no anything. But I understand why people want to be on it. But equally, it's being responsible for yourself as well, isn't it? Because we give away far too much information. I mean, I was then going to tell you I was flying off on holiday tonight and tell you the house would be empty for 5 days, but probably shouldn't do that either.
But that's the thing, isn't it?
Facebook later.
It's understanding the information that you're giving away right now, or the picture you're sending is understanding not just your face, it's the background, and you might be able to see out my window and all the other kind of bits and bobs. It's understanding what you're giving away.
Yeah, Adam, it's been a massive pleasure. Thank you for joining us, sharing your journey and your insights. I suppose from the courtroom to the boardroom, it's clear that your perspective is invaluable for organizations navigating today's complex cyber challenges. To everyone tuning in, thank you for being part of the CISO experience. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe to the InfoSec Live channel. And let me bring this back up quickly before we go, and connect with Adam on LinkedIn. And of course, a final thank you to Simple Security for sponsoring this series, working to make enterprise-grade security simple and achievable for all. And a big shout out to Heimdal as well, because we've got their CISO Adam sitting here, and it'd be nice to promote them as well. So until next time from me, stay safe, stay resilient. We'll see you soon. Adam, any final last words of wisdom before we wrap this up?
I'm going to be cheeky and say, please do follow me on LinkedIn, because I do a weekly cyber snapshot. 2.5 minutes, gives you all the information you need to know. So please do follow me on LinkedIn.
Love it. Amazing. Have a great rest of the evening or day, everyone, depending on where you are, and see you soon. Cheers.